Just in time. Hello, Miss Crystal Moore. Everybody, welcome to Everyday Shenanigans. Today is back-to-back lives. This is live number 2 pertaining to Megan Boswell. Motions filed in her case. Materials turned over. Pictures. They're trying to decide what to let the jury see and not see pertaining to the death of her child, Evelyn Boswell. Cal City. Same thing. Defense requesting evidentiary materials against Jacqueline and Giselle West. And thirdly, Billy Ray Turner. Out of Memphis, Tennessee, the trial has begun. I will play you commentary pertaining to the ex-boyfriend of Shura Wright, what he has to say about knowing when he thought she was guilty. Testimonies from the star witness, who's the cousin of Shura Wright. And that's the said live. And then the last live will be Grown Folks Hour. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Let's get started. Subject number 1 is Megan Boswell. New motions filed in Boswell case. On March 1st, motions and jury questionnaires were filed for Megan Boswell's upcoming trial. In January, Judge Jim Goodwin denied a bond reduction. Boswell is the Sullivan County mother accused of murdering her daughter, 15-month-old Evelyn Boswell. An Amber Alert was issued for Evelyn in February 2020. Her body was found on the family's property 2 years ago this month. District Attorney General Barry Stavis filed one motion, while Boswell's court-appointed attorney, Brad Sproils, filed 5 ahead of this deadline. We filed a motion in Lamine for the judge to determine which photographs may or may not come into trial, which is a standard motion in a case like this, said Stavis. The judge will determine prior to trial, in order to save time, what photographs would be admissible before a jury and which ones would not be. The motion reads, the photographs the state seeks to introduce to be filed separately and which have been provided to the defense are relevant to the elements of deliberation and premeditation, and their probative value outweighs the inflammatory nature of the photographs. The photographs are clear and accurate, and testimony alone would be inadequate to relate to the jury the facts illustrated by the photographs. It's the nature of the photographs. You have a child, and because of the circumstances in which the child was discovered, explains Stavis, the practice is with photographs like that to put them before the court to determine which ones would be appropriate and relevant under the facts of the case. In response, Sproles filed a motion to preserve the defendant's objections to the state's evidence. The images of where the child's body was recovered and the images of the child's autopsy are heartbreaking, Sproles said. Our position is that any person who sees those images is going to have an emotional response, and we don't want that emotional response to influence their judgment and their logical thinking about the evidence presented in the case. Along with thousands of images, the massive amount of discovery includes videos, audio files, text messages, and social media. There are thousands of images here involving this case, with some of which are very graphic, very disturbing, and my thinking is the state will want to present as much of those as it can, and we want to limit the amount of those images the state can show to the jury, Sproles said. Sproles also filed a motion requesting written notice of the state's intention to use evidence at trial. We typically, before trial, will release to the defense the defendant and defense counsel exhibits we intend to introduce ahead of time. That expedites and makes the trial more efficient, said Stavis in response. Some of the evidence is still outstanding, so Sproles asked for the trial date to be reset. They've given us the vast majority of the discovery, and we've had that for a little over a year. However, there are still things that are coming in and that are potentially very important, Sproles said. Out of fairness, we need to have all the evidence and have it for a certain period of time. Although the state is still waiting on lab reports, Stavis says it's too early to look at pushing the trial back. We've not even really begun the motion process, Stavis said in response. I think it's premature for the judge at this time to make the decision, but there will be a time the judge will have to make that decision. A motion to allow supplemental ex parte motions for services was also filed. I asked for the judge to allow me to request funds for certain expert witnesses after our motion deadline, Sproles said. Because I don't have everything, I don't know exactly what experts I may need. Sproles was appointed as opposed to being hired to represent Boswell. If there are expert witnesses that we need, we have to apply to the state for funds to hire those witnesses. And that comes from the administrative office of the courts in Nashville, he explained. The jury questionnaire from both Sproles and Stavas was also due on March 1st. It's not unusual in more serious crime in a case to have jury questionnaires, and both sides have submitted questionnaires that go into areas of knowledge of the case in media and publicity, and also the background of the jurors, said Stavas. Sproles is also asking to submit supplements to move the trial out of Sullivan County. As time has progressed, more and more coverage has been afforded to this case, so we're just asking the court to allow us to submit supplements after the motion deadline of March 1st, he said. He also hopes the case popularity on social media will be considered along with media coverage. It's not specified under the rules that social media can be a basis for the change of venue motion, but we are certainly supplying that information, said Sproles. We have given the judge a very thorough questionnaire where issues in regards to social media will be known to us if people answer that completely and are honest on their answers. Boswell is due in court again April 7th, where the change of venue and severance motions are set to be taken up. The severance motion was filed back in September to separate Boswell's indictments for a possibility of 2 trials. Her trial is set to begin September 26th. WJHL.com is the source. Thank you for joining me. Give it a rest with this, putting the trial somewhere else. You people kill me with this bullshit. Nothing is going to take away from the fact the baby was found in the shed. The baby was dead in the shed. The baby wasn't alive in the shed. So somebody put the baby in there dead in the shed. Let me say that again. Somebody put a dead baby in the shed. Somebody put a dead baby in the shed. So now you want to move the trial because of social media, and that's life. The baby's dead. Somebody killed the baby. Somebody put a damn dead baby in a shed. You want to move the trial to another county for what reason? As if nobody in that general area has heard of Megan Boswell and Evelyn Boswell. Are you serious? Give it a rest. As far as the photographs, well, let me think about that for a second. You're damn right. The state's going to want to show what the baby looked like when they discovered the baby. You want them to keep showing pictures of Evelyn alive during the trial so people can just assume that's how she looked when they found her dead. Well, we know they didn't find her probably dead with her damn eyes open. Stay woke. Yeah, I'm crunk. Because they do this shit every time. Always wanting to move stuff. Want a venue. Want to change stuff. Same thing with the Cal City situation. You want to move the trial. A lot of people in California didn't even know about the damn boys missing. So now here you go with this case. Same thing. Oh, we want to move the trial somewhere else. Why you want to move the trial? They're still going. The information's still going to be the same. Mother accused of killing kid. Possibly others knew, had knowledge, aided. What's going to be different? Nothing. Not a damn thing. WJHL is the source. Stop trying to sugarcoat the fact the woman killed her kid. They're going to have to show pictures of what they found in the shed, which was a deceased baby. They cannot keep showing pictures of Evelyn before death. That's the part of discovery. It's to show how we found the body. So her body was in a shed. They're going to have to show the pictures of the child in the shed. In the state she was in. Common sense. What else was in the shed alongside the body? It is what it is. Sickening. Next story. Jacqueline and Giselle West. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. KGET is the source. A defense motion was granted Wednesday, ordering prosecutors to turn over information gathered in the case against accused child killers Giselle and Jacqueline West, but redact material that would violate medical privacy laws. Prosecutor Brian Estep acknowledged defense lawyers Timothy Hennessy and Alexia Torres Stallings were entitled to the discovery and said it will be provided. Estep said a voluminous amount of material has been gathered, which the district attorney's office is uploading to a digital format. He estimated it's equivalent to 200 to 300 gigabytes of data. A new motions dating the case was set for Tuesday. Judge Chad A. Louis said the defendants must appear. Defense counsel appeared on their behalf for Wednesday's hearing. The Wests are held without bail. Prosecutors have said the West's youngest adoptive sons, Orrin 4, Orson 3, were killed 3 months before they were reported missing. Their bodies have not been found. Giselle West, 35, told authorities the boys were playing outside their California City home while he gathered firewood December 21st, 2020. He said he briefly went inside, and when he came back out, they had vanished. Information received a week later led to the involvement of the Bakersfield Police Department, which eventually took over the investigation from California City Police. Dozens of searches were conducted, as well as digging at sites in Bakersfield and California City. The Wests were indicted March 1st on 2 counts of second-degree murder, among other charges. They previously lived at the Casa Loma Apartments in Bakersfield. A gag order has been issued, barring attorneys, law enforcement, and witnesses from talking about the case. KGET is the source. So, the defense attorneys are asking for information, and there is a voluminous amount of material gathered by the district attorney, and they're now gathering it off a digital format. It says it's estimated at 200 to 300 gigabytes of data. So they got a lot of stuff that they've gathered. What do they have? Text messages, images, Google searches, what? What will the information reveal? Via cell phones, landlines, apps, computers, iPads. What are they gathering? That is that information. KGET is the source. My next information is coming out of Memphis 10. Billy Ray Turner standing trial for the murder of Lorenzen Wright. It is alleged that we have 3 conspirators. The wife orchestrated the hit on her ex-husband. Billy Ray Turner was a deacon and a handyman. Did he do it? Number 2, star witness, her cousin, who gave up the information. I did not know that the cousin was also incarcerated for killing his girlfriend. So one would have to ask themselves. It's very interesting information. I heard the defense attorney opening statement late this morning that, do you want to believe a man who would turn over information to where a gun could be found not implicate himself? Why would he know where the gun was unless he was involved? Why would she tell her cousin where the gun was, where she discarded the gun? Is he also a part of the hit of a man shot so many times, 20-something times, I believe they said? What took the city so long to gather information? 911 calls came through, but the man laid out there in the field 9 days, basically dissolving into the earth. And if you ever see the graphic photographs of his body imprint, it would even make a grown man cry. Sinister indeed. It is said by the defense attorney for Billy Ray that the cousin and Cheryl went to Atlanta at one point, and I'd heard a rumor on some documentary that there was a hit put out on him down there in Atlanta. The person made their way into the house, and when they realized it wasn't Lorenzen, they ran out. Why is that? Did she send somebody down there to put a hit on him? How would they know he was there? Allegedly, he was staying with a friend. So had he given Cheryl the information and she went down there and or sent a hitman to try to kill him then? But it failed when they realized they had the wrong guy. So then you have to ask yourself the obvious question. What is someone doing breaking into the house of this said person? Were they selling drugs? Was it valuables they thought was in the house? Why didn't they have ADT? And why did the person run out when they realized the person they were going to harm wasn't Lorenzen Wright? How many times did this woman exact a hit on her ex-husband? Why even put a hit out on a man you're not married to? Was it for the life insurance policy? She knew that he still had it in her name. Why didn't he take her name off of it? You're not married to her. Why not have it in your children's names? This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $sign McAndrew, 129 Cash App. All super chats are welcome during the live. This is story number 3. Billy Ray Turner I'm going to bring you information pertaining to the ex-boyfriend who wrote a book about this bullshit story. And that's another thing. Who writes a story in a book, fiction allegedly, after the fact of your own husband being gunned down? Kind of like an OJ synopsis. If I did it. See, that lets me know that you're guilty. And you're tooting your own horn. Yeah, I got away with this crime. So what? What you going to do about it? Only a fool would write a book about a sports figure cheating and being killed. And that actually happened to your ex-husband. Ask yourself what fool would write a book. Very baffling information. We're going to play 3 sets of content pertaining to this baffling story out of Memphis 10. Is there more than one murderer of Lorenzen Wright? Court TV is the source. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
Shara Wright, who is Lorenzen, the victim's ex-wife, because she's in the middle of everything. She's pleaded guilty, but then kind of reneged on it, saying, no, I take it back. I was pressured into the whole plea deal for facilitation, but she's still convicted of that. Today in the courtroom, again, her name is coming up. It will continue to come up throughout this trial. And one question lingering is, will she testify? And if so, what is she going to say? So take a listen. This is Sergeant Dennis Evans Jr. and one of the detectives, again, talking about communication between the defendant, the murder defendant in this case, and the victim's ex-wife, Shara.
I was asked to analyze the records and see how many times Billy Turner talked to Shara. For that, we found 186 basically voice calls, because we were basing this off of Billy Turner's records. So we found 186 calls between July 5th, 2010 and August 5th, 2010.
So 186 voice calls between Billy Turner and Shara Wright over the course of 31 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Six days. Calls between Billy Turner and Jenny Martin.
We found 17 calls on Mr. Turner's records.
With the same date range, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The date range was July 5th to August 5th.
Middle of everything. She's pleaded guilty, but then kind of reneged on it, saying, no, I take it back. I was pressured into the whole plea deal for facilitation, but she's still convicted of that. Today in the courtroom, again, her name is coming up. It will continue to come up throughout this trial. And one question lingering is, will she testify? And if so, what is she going to say? So take a listen. This is Sergeant Dennis Evans Jr. and one of the detectives, again, talking about communication between the defendant, the murder defendant in this case, and the victim's ex-wife, Shara.
I was asked to analyze the records and see how many times Billy Turner talked to Shara. For that, we found 186 basically voice calls, because we were basing this off of Billy Turner's records. So we found 186 calls between July 5th, 2010 and August 5th, 2010.
All right, so 186 voice calls between Billy Turner and Shara Wright over the course of 31 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Six days. Calls between Billy Turner and Jenny Martin.
We found 17 calls on Mr. Turner's records.
With the same date range, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The date range was July 5th to August 5th. We ran a timeline search on her iPhone for looking really for instant messages between her and Billy Turner. We used the date range of the 18th to the 23rd. What we noticed on that is she had deleted all the messages between herself and Mr. Turner between July 18, 2010 and July 23, 2010. We're going to show how we can tell it was deleted in a second. But that's where we reference that 295 messages, 83 of those were deleted, but we recovered those 83 messages that were deleted. Now, were there more messages? Probably. But our software only extracted and recovered and was able to parse out or analyze 83 of them. And we can see the body of the message reads, I'm going to need my commission, ... Ren want you to bring your cards in the AM before he fly out, ... You owe me, boy, !
This message was deleted by Ms. Wright.
If you look at the top left, the top arrow, there's a red X. The red X indicates that it was deleted and that our software was able to recover it.
Cheryl Wright is in the middle of all of this, right? She's the thing that links everyone connected to this case, right? She's the ex-wife of the victim. She's the cousin of the key witness for prosecutors in this case, Jimmy Martin, and she's calling the defendant here 6 times a day. What's going on there? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, live from Memphis, Tennessee tonight. Great to see you, Chanley. So let's talk about Shara here in the middle of everything. Is she texting Billy Ray Turner, on the night of the shooting?
She is texting Billy Ray Turner on the night of the shooting. In fact, the prosecution really focusing on a text. She sends him 25 minutes before Lorenzen Wright calls 911, and we hear him being shot on that 911 call. That is the focus of that. But really today, the prosecution spending the afternoon having the cell phone data expert on the witness stand, Vinny, really trying to tighten the connection between these alleged co-conspirators of Shara Wright, Jimmy Martin, and Billy Ray Turner, where they were and what they were saying to each other in those moments, those weeks, those months, and minutes leading up to the death of Lorenzen Wright. Let's take a listen, though, to earlier when Detective Browning talked about messages between Shara, Jimmy, and, of course, Billy Ray Turner.
We didn't set out just to
Sorry
make
about that.
coffee. We set out to make something that would bring out the best in people, whether it's the start of someone's day or the end. They wouldn't want to share a cup of that.
When Detective Browning talked about messages between Shara, Jimmy, and, of course, Billy Ray Turner.
When I'm looking at these text messages, there's a phone number that reads Edna J. Is that the contact name?
Correct.
And who was Edna J? Who's that person?
That's going to be Jimmy Martin.
Okay, so are there text exchanges from Jimmy Martin with Shara Wright in these documents?
There are.
Are there also text exchanges from Billy Ray Turner and Shara Wright in these documents?
Yes.
In particular, these text exchanges include the text message that we saw yesterday sent about 25 minutes before the murder from Shara Wright to Billy Turner.
Yes, it does.
The prosecutors want this jury to believe that that message between Shara and Billy Ray Turner, that was the go time message. You owe me. Let's get this done. And this apparently had been planned out for a long time, according to this messages back and forth between the alleged co-conspirators, Vinny. Also revealing today with the cell phone expert is the fact that we know that Jimmy Martin, who is expected again to testify tomorrow, his phone was not pinging anywhere near the crime scene when the murder happened. He's in Batesville, Mississippi, but Billy Ray Turner's phone, Vinny, was pinging in the same coverage area as Lorenzen Wright's phone when he placed that 911 call at the time of the murder.
Yeah, this is compelling evidence. But let's talk about Jimmy Martin a little bit. This is the cousin of Shara Wright. He's going to be the star witness, or one of the star witnesses for prosecutors. He got a deal. He got some level of immunity. He's also a convicted murderer, by the way. Were there messages, these coded messages between Shara Wright, or alleged coded messages between Shara Wright and her cousin, Jimmy Martin?
There were allegedly coded messages, and again, the witness on the stand and the prosecutors say that they were talking about a party or planning a party that was code for murdering Lorenzen Wright, and the jury was able to see and read some of these messages. Let's go through some of these. Now, these are, again, between Shira Wright and her cousin, Jimmy Martin. So the highlighted thread of messages on Facebook, that would be, it began about June 24th, 2010. That's Jimmy Martin. He goes by J Martin on Facebook. He's saying, no luck, still looking, when the party. When is the party? Shira Wright on Facebook. She went by Shira Robinson at the time. That was her married name at the time. She responds days later, July 4th, saying, you're driving me crazy with this party. We keep getting your days and times mixed up. What else do you need? Because I can't find another DJ this late. I want to do it before the 18th because we got the family reunion coming up. Give me a holler back. Well, this conversation, Benny, continues into July 2010 with Jimmy Martin expressing concern about the noise and the neighbors. And then 5 days before the shooting, Shira Wright asks, are we still on? And Martin says he is trying to tie up those loose ends. Also, though, there is a message sent 2 days after the shooting on a day prosecutors say Jimmy Martin actually traveled to Memphis to clean up the crime scene. Shira Wright sends, it could be construed as a cover-up message about this party plot. She says, I give up. Nothing is working out. I'm sick of this party. I will plan it after the reunion. So tomorrow, when Jimmy Martin does take the witness stand, Benny, we can expect him to be huge for the prosecutor in corroborating the state's theory here that they were actually talking about murder. They weren't planning a party, and really pointing the finger at Billy Ray Turner's part in that plot.
Okay, let's get back to Shira Wright, the ex-wife of the victim. You spoke to another one of her exes today?
I did. I spoke with Kelvin Cowens. He was in a relationship with Shira Wright for almost 3 years. The two of them met when he was interviewing her, Vinny, on the 5th anniversary of Lorenzen Wright's death. He basically told me he fell in love with her. They had an instant connection. She moved with him and her 6 children to Houston, where they lived, like I said, for almost 3 years. So he's telling me about even after they broke up and the news that the weapon was recovered in the lake, that he was in communications with her. And at that moment, he started to realize and look back on their relationship, and maybe some red flags should have been raised earlier on, Vinny. Let's listen. First time in your years of knowing her that red flags went up?
Absolutely. You see, up until that point, it was like I thought I was looking at someone that was grieving. You know what I mean? And so I mistaken that for, what it really was, because, all of the crying at night, Cheryl would often go in our master closet and pray and cry herself to sleep. And I'm talking to, like, she'll go in there like 10 o'clock at night and stand there till 2 in the morning. I have to go get her sometimes and be like, come on to bed. So it's just weird that the tables turn, and it's like, okay, I thought I was looking at grief, but this is guilt. You know what I mean? I didn't know that, so, but that was my first time to answer your question. That was my first time the red flag went up, like, we're all, they found the gun, we finna find out. That wasn't her.
So then he says what he misinterpreted as a grieving single mother was something he later found out was just guilt or coping with what she did and what she has pleaded guilty to. He also said he reached out to her when that murder weapon was found, thinking she would be happy, elated. Finally, they have a break in the case of her ex-husband's murder, and she reacted the exact opposite, Vinny, he said, and that was really concerning to him. He knew then something wasn't right.
Yeah, she's in the middle of all of this, and I think the jury has to understand that for prosecutors to win this case. Chanley Painter in Memphis, another big day today. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Let's bring in our think tank, bring him back in. Eklund Mercy, Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi with us. Kirk, let me ask you, Shira Wright plays such an integral part of this case. If I'm sitting in that jury box, I want to hear from her. I want to hear from her because she's the connecting part to all of this. And I guess the question for the jury is going to be, is she connected to just Jimmy Martin, or is she really also connected to Billy Ray Turner and 186 phone calls tells me she's connected to this defendant.
Well, that may be so, but it's really hard to say. This to me, this witness, you're right, she's completely connected with everyone involved. She's kind of the witness that could blow up in the state's face if they bring her forward. Because yes, the jury's going to want to hear from her, but she's the one who orchestrated all this. She's the one who facilitated all this, whether it's Mr. Turner or Mr. Martin, what have you. This is a woman who's capable of facilitating the murder of her husband, knowing that she's the mother of 6 children. So, and is this coded language that the state believes the cops are saying that is in these text messages, is she the source for their belief of that coded message? And add to this fact, the fact that she's up for parole in 2026 on the facilitation charge makes her toxic. She's going to be the kind of witness that will say anything. Clearly, she'll do anything if she'll murder her husband in order to get out of prison. So it's a really tough witness because it could blow up the state's case. It could make it, but it could blow it up.
Yeah, extremely unpredictable. Her attorney not saying much about what she would or would not say. But Nima, do you call anyone 6 times a day?
No, I do not. I agree with Kirk on this one. I mean, this is a very risky witness, and frankly, you don't need her. You know, you don't want to rely on these types of witnesses. You know, you have 2 convicted murderers, one for facilitation and share right, and obviously, you know, Jimmy Martin, who murdered his girlfriend in another case, so that's why he's cooperating in this one. I think the state has done a very good job getting those co-conspirator statements in. I love this judge. You know, he's really getting into the evidentiary weeds. I've been watching on court TV, and he's really articulating the basis for overruling all the hearsay, all the confrontation clause objections. So the state is getting a lot of these statements in, so why risk it? Don't put Cher Wright anywhere near the stand. Play this straight up. You have plenty of evidence, including corroborating forensic evidence, to put these folks away.
Eckler Mercy, what would happen if she came into the courtroom and took that witness stand? I mean, the jury will listen to every single word she says. I know that.
With bated breath. I mean, I want to see it. It's going to be a cataclysmic disaster because you don't know what she's going to say. So it's going to be great entertainment, but just scary for the prosecutor as well as the defense. You don't know what side she's going to go on. And it's actually pretty brilliant that she put herself in that position. So I don't know what she's going to say. I'm going to tune in because it's going to be real good. As Nima said, I do agree with Nima in part that legally, I don't believe that they need any more information. However, how juries are set up right now, they do want, they want the flair. They want the story. They want the nuances. They want the emotional connection. They want it all because they watch it on TV. So it's still going to be difficult.
Yeah, Nima, did you notice that right there? She said, I agree with Nima in part. She'll never completely agree with you. That is impossible. It just won't happen. It won't happen.
That's why we love each other, but I'm going to buy a lottery ticket tonight because I think it's a minor miracle that we just saw.
Minor miracle. All right, this is what we are waiting for, though, folks.
Whoops. Sorry about that. Will Cher testify? That is a great question because only God knows what she may say. If you put her up there on that witness stand, have mercy. You have no idea what that woman would say. Could bring the whole house of cards down. She plays crazy or I plead the fifth. Because she kept going back and forth last year like she didn't do anything. Then she changed her mind again by trying to get a new trial. Just crazy. All right, everybody, that was Court TV, my first source pertaining to Lorenzen Wright. Going to bring you more information. They also let you hear commentary from an ex-boyfriend. I don't know. I've posted information to my community page about him. The way he talks, he was a fan of Lorenzen. I don't know, maybe he was just enamored with the guy. He didn't mind dating the ex-wife of a sportsman. I don't know. Just something about his testimony is strange to me. It's very strange to me. But maybe he's genuinely a good guy. Saw some comments in the commentary. Some people didn't quite like the fact that he wrote a book, helped her write a book about the ordeal that she's saying it's fiction, but a lot of people believe it's based on her life with Lorenzen, him cheating, this and that. So it's everything's it's up for interpretation. I'm going to play you commentary from an hour ago. Star witness and alleged co-conspirator takes the stand. This is the cousin of Cheryl Wright, the woman who facilitated the crime of murder against her ex-husband, sports star, no longer alive. And I didn't know that this cousin of hers killed his own girlfriend. So one would question that. Opening statements today by the defense laid that out. Basically, do you want to believe the lies of this man or what he's saying? This is a man who's also taken a life himself of another woman. Why should we believe anything that he says? And he has a valid point. Because if you could kill your girlfriend, you also can kill Lorenzen Wright. Sure, as your cousin, maybe she laid on you heavy. Hey, I need you to do this. Help me do this. And is he also the one that went down to Atlanta and tried to kill Lorenzen Wright at the friend's house? Is he that guy? I'd really like to get information on that. Because it is alleged that one night someone broke into a house where Lorenzen was staying in Atlanta, Georgia. And the suspect fled when they realized it wasn't Lorenzen. So what's the truth to that? Was word spoken that night when the person woke and saw this perpetrator inside of the house? Why did the people break in the house? Who was the person that broke in the house? How did they get in undetected? And why did they flee and not harm anybody in the house? Is it true the perpetrator went in to kill Lorenzen Wright, but realized he stumbled on the wrong guy? This is a wicked story. Court TV is this second source. Thanks for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
Sir. James Jones. Mr. James Jones, he's standing for Mama Mr. Jones. Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones has been representing you for how long now, sir? 8 years. 8 years. Mr. Jones, thank you, sir. Thank you for being in court this afternoon. Mr. Martin, I told you a few minutes ago that because you have a case that's pending, you have a lawyer that you cannot be called as a witness in this case unless you and your lawyer tell me that you're willing to testify under oath and listen to the questions that are asked by both sides. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. And I told you that that there's your personal right that if you chose to waive any possible rights against self-incrimination, you will be allowed to testify. If you told me just cough that choose not to testify, I told you that you cannot be compelled to testify. Do you understand this, sir? Yes, sir. You told me a few minutes ago that you wanted to testify. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Now, is that your decision, sir? Yes, sir. Has anyone threatened you, promised anything, put any force or pressure on you in order to get you to make that decision, Mr. Martin? No, sir. And I also told you that if someone asks a question of you, you need to talk to Mr. Jones to let me know. And I'll allow you to consult or talk to your lawyer. You understand that, sir? Correct. Do you have any questions, sir?
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Look at this.
No, I wasn't. What these commercials, they come up, do they not? Sorry about that. Jeez.
Sir, Ms. Hagerman, you may proceed.
All right, Mr. Martin, keep your voice up. Keep it up for me. You're doing good, okay? Good. A little bit louder.
All right.
That's good. Before we start, I'm going to ask you about things that happened 10 years ago, okay? And actually, before that, I'm going to ask you about things that happened more than 10 years ago. But I want to ask you, and my first shot,
Yes, sir, you may.
do you recognize this document here?
Yes, sir.
Is it a document from 2012?
Yes, sir.
In fact, is it what is called a memorandum of understanding, an agreement that provides what's called use immunity with regard to your information?
Correct.
And is it signed by you?
Yes, sir.
And it's also signed by prosecutors long before me in 2012. Is that correct?
Correct.
And offered you to
Oh, my Lord.
correct?
Correct.
Your attorneys back then reviewed the document with you, is that correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Jones has seen it too, is that right?
Correct.
In 2012, did you agree and actually come forward to talk to investigators with regard to the case involving the murder of Lorenzen Wright?
Yes, sir.
And at the time you did that, was this agreement, this memorandum of understanding signed by you and signed by the district attorneys at the time?
I believe it was afterwards, but at the same time, it's around the same time.
And this agreement that I've explained to you, and your attorneys explained to you previously, provides that you will tell the truth at all times, the whole truth, and nothing about the truth. That you'll waive your wife rights and you'll do those things. And if you do, the state of Tennessee agrees, I'm reading this, agrees that no statement made by you pursuant to this will be presented to any grand jury, pettit jury, or any finder of fact, nor will it use any such statement as a basis for any indictment, information, warrant, or other charging instrument concerning the subject offenses. Does that sound familiar to you? A lot of legal talk. Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Does that mean to you that if you tell the truth, the things you say cannot be used against you to charge you with this conspiracy of kill or coercion?
Correct.
I'd like to offer this into evidence that you're as a state's explanation.
Sheriff Thomas in objections. The record is number 7272. This is a memorandum of understanding entered into by Jimmy Martin in the state of Tennessee, signed by Mr. Martin, signed by Mr. Thomas Henderson, Thomas Henderson, Henderson, as an assistant district attorney general, and also signed by Mr. Martin's then counsel, exhibit number 72, a memorandum of understanding. You may proceed, Ms. Hagerman.
All right, I told you, Mr. Martin, that we're going to talk about something that happened 10 years ago, which is a long time ago, right? Let's start even before that, okay? Where are you from?
I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, but I grew up in Boswell, Mississippi.
You born in Memphis?
Yeah, born and raised.
When did you start living in Boswell?
Probably when I was young.
Okay. Do you even remember when y'all moved from Memphis to Boswell?
I thought it was in the same spot.
Okay. And who raised you down in Boswell?
I was raised by my mother.
All right, and what's your mother's name?
In the register.
And did you go to school down in Boswell?
Yes, sir.
Where'd you go to school in Boswell?
South Panola High School.
Did you play any sports there?
No, sir.
Did you graduate from South Panola?
Graduated.
And what did you do after you left South Panola?
I listened to the United States Navy.
And were you in the Navy?
Yeah, I was in the Navy.
How long were you in the Navy?
I did 8 years in the Navy.
8 years. What did you do in the Navy?
I was a hospital corpsman.
Hospital corpsman?
Yes, sir.
And what did that involve?
It involved LPN work. I was like a licensed practitioner nurse.
Okay. And where all were you stationed in the Navy?
I was stationed in San Diego, Chicago, Millington, Seattle.
You ever on a carrier?
I was on the USS Abraham Lincoln.
For how long?
I did about a year on the carrier, 6 months after sea.
Where all in this world have you been?
Portugal, Spain, Africa, Italy, Singapore, Thailand, Australia, Canada, Mexico.
Around the world. All in the Navy?
Yes, sir.
Did you like being in the Navy?
Yes, sir.
After 8 years, did you leave it though?
After 8 years, I left. Just to be close to home. Just to take care of moms.
And where'd you move back to after you left the Navy?
I moved back to Memphis.
Was your mom living in Memphis or basically?
She lived in Memphis at the time.
And just so we know about how far is Memphis from base, how long does it take you?
30 minutes.
Not particularly far.
Not far at all.
What were you doing when you were living in Memphis? Come down to baseball. Did you have a job after you left the Navy?
When I left the Navy, I got employed with Pediatrics East.
What was that kind of business?
I was a nurse with Pediatrics East in Memphis.
Okay.
I was Germantown.
How long did you do that for?
I did it for a couple of months, about 6 months.
Okay. Did you stop doing that?
Yeah, I went to school. I got enrolled in school to Veteran. I went to IT work to do IT work. That's what really my passion is. IT.
Is IT stuff? Did you complete your courses there at Veteran?
During the course, I failed accident happened. I ended up in jail.
I'm not going to ask you about that, but there will be some questions as we go about whether or not you had a case going on at the time, whether or not you had an attorney at the time, whether or not you're out on bond, things like that. But I'm not going to ask you about the subject matter of the case that you have going on. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, what is your relationship, or do you have a relation with Shara Ray?
Sure, right. It's my cousin.
Okay, what's the family tree there?
She'll be my first cousin. She's my mother's sister's daughter.
Okay, she's your mother's sister's daughter.
Correct.
He has such a pleasant demeanor on the stand, doesn't he? The question is going to be, does that demeanor remain that way when he starts talking about the fateful night in question in the murder of Lorenzen Wright? We'll be right back to go back to live court.
China wants to beat America. The anti-tech agenda.
Sorry about that. Ooh, these commercials are endless. Jeepers creepers. Oh, thank you all for joining me. I guess they cut that commentary. Hold on. Yeah, I guess that was all of it. They're giving you snippets of the trial. So that was the star witness, the cousin speaking, Shara Wright. What I'm going to say is the state knew not to say anything about what happened. How can I word this? We're not going to mention what happened in that case when we all met up to make an agreement for you to testify. The point being, he killed his girlfriend. So they know if they mention that, we linked up with you while you're incarcerated for the murder of your girlfriend. First thing people are going to say is, oh, well, he's trying to cut a plea for murdering his girlfriend to testify in this trial pertaining to Shara Wright's husband, his cousin's husband, ex-husband. Either way, you're crooked. If you tried to kill that man in Atlanta, you acknowledged she was going to have somebody kill her ex-husband. Whether you were in Batesville, Mississippi or not at the time, your phone doesn't ping. Maybe he didn't have his phone on him to not ping at the time. But somebody was out there in that field with Lorenzen Wright on that fateful day, because they said they heard two voices on the 911 dispatch call. And then gunshots. So you taking what? What kind of plea deal did you get offered from the state to testify? Because what's sickening to me is that he killed his girlfriend. And we already know 9 times out of 10 it wasn't right what he did. Was not right. Whatever his reasons were not right. So if you would kill her, you would kill Lorenzen Wright. That's what people would think. Why would I not think that? You can easily snuff out one, you can snuff out another. And it doesn't have to be, the reasoning doesn't have to make any sense. Only right in your head. The fact he was in the Navy for years, came out doing nurse work, IT work, then got himself into trouble. I don't know if that trouble was the murder of the girlfriend or some other type of legal trouble, but it's still sad nonetheless that this person was in the military, had skills to do something with himself, and then now he's locked up for murder and also implicated as a co-conspirator in the murder of Lorenzen Wright, fooling around with his stupid ass cousin. She's locked up too. So how about that? Two mothers' children who are cousins are locked up for the murder of Lorenzen Wright. It's jacked up. Let's bring you testimony from the mother of Lorenzen Wright. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $McAndrew 129 Cash App. All super chats are welcome during the live. God bless all of you. Thank you for following the content. 1 second. Trying to find where his mother was speaking. Oh, boy, I tell you, these stories get worse and worse by the minute. Well, I thought I had it here. One minute, please. Does a mother's testimony sway a jury? Lorenzen Wright's mother gives her testimony. Thank you for joining me.
He always returned my call, mine and Lauren. That's why I waited to the end to call Lauren, because I know if he had called her back, it was something wasn't right, because he always called me out.
Emotional testimony from the mother of NBA star Lorenzen Wright. Then, after her testimony, an exclusive interview with Court TV. Plus,
she said, it's him or me. It's like, what do you mean? He has to get on me. He has to be on.
family friend says Lorenzen Wright's ex-wife admits that she planned the murder. Did she actually think that she was also some sort of target? Live testimony resuming this morning in Memphis. And
I didn't understand how we got from stable to the ICU for continued care to he's dead.
Emotional testimony from family members of those that died under the care of Dr. William Husel. More testimony from Ohio this morning. It's all ahead on a busy Wednesday. Next on Court TV Live. Good morning. It is a busy day here at Court TV. We're juggling 2 murder trials in Tennessee. Testimony resumes in about 2 hours for the trial of Billy Ray Turner. He's accused of murdering NBA star Lorenzen Wright back in 2010. The prosecution claims that Wright's ex-wife, Shara Wright, solicited the defendant to carry out the shooting. The defense claims the real killer is not the defendant, but another man who's already in prison for murder. And, of course, we're watching the murder trial for Dr. William Husel in Ohio. He's accused of killing 14 of his patients. The jury is expected to hear more testimony this morning from friends and family members of ICU patients who died while in Husel's care. Testimony in Columbus begins in a few minutes. As soon as it does, we'll get you into that courtroom live. But let's begin in Tennessee. Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter is in Memphis with the latest on the Billy Ray Turner murder trial.
Hey, good morning, Ted. The long-awaited trial against Billy Ray Turner is now underway here in Memphis, Tennessee. And yesterday, during opening statements, the prosecutors told the jury that the defendant himself was recruited by Lorenzen Wright's ex-wife, Shara Wright, to murder.
Billy Turner was somebody that Shara Wright could trust, manipulate, and use.
The defense pointed the finger at a man named Jimmy Martin, a cousin of Shara Wright, who allegedly owed her something.
They give him a permanent get-out-of-jail-free card. Sign this. They signed a contract. Like you go in and buy a car, they signed a contract. Now, what you say, if it changes, if it weaves, if it falls, there's nothing that we're going to do to you.
Authorities say Jimmy Martin led them to the murder weapon, and he is expected to be a key witness for the prosecution against Turner in this trial. Now, the prosecution's first witness in its case was Lorenzen Wright's mother, Deborah Marion, someone who has never stopped fighting for justice for her son.
May have been his #1 fan. Did you stay his #1 fan for
the day he died, still there.
The jury started hearing more about Shara Wright's possible motive for wanting Lorenzen Wright dead when her cousin Claudia Robinson took the stand and told them what she overheard between Shara Wright and the defendant.
And Shara was just irate, saying Lorenzen had a hit on her. She had been told that he had a hit on her.
Like a hit like the killer?
Yes, sir.
Billy Ray Turner sat stoically throughout the day, taking notes on a yellow notepad. He has pleaded not guilty to first first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy. Of course, in 2019, Shira Wright pleaded guilty for her part in the murder plot, but when Lorenzen Wright's mother spoke to me after court, she expressed that she believes Shira played a more direct role in her son's murder. Do you think Shira was one of the ones with the handgun that shot Lorenzen too?
Yes, the bullet in his face. I'll say that today I die. To the day I die.
And Deborah told me that she hopes that Billy Ray Turner spends the rest of his life behind bars because she herself is doing a life sentence without her son, Lorenzen. Ted, coming up today, we're expecting the detective Jesse Browning to retake the witness stand to be under cross-examination after revealing a lot of new details from that crime scene. I'll send it back to you.
Thanks to Chaley Painter. She'll be in the courtroom all day as well. And again, we're expecting testimony to resume about 2 hours from now in Memphis. Joining us now, trial attorney Michelle Thomas. She is in Silver Spring, Maryland. And Commonwealth attorney Anton Bell is in Hampton, Virginia. Good morning to both of you. Appreciate your time on this Wednesday. Michelle, when testimony resumes in Memphis, we're going to have this detective back on the stand, and this is the individual that really has brought the crime to life, the crime scene to life. Cross-examination is going to begin. And also, he is starting that connection between the two things that the jury has to have, and that is a connection between Shira Wright, the wife who admitted to engineering this whole thing, and the defendant, Billy Ray Turner. There's some text there, and then also the trap, the plan, some text also there were brought into evidence. How crucial is connecting ex-wife Shira, who's admitted her involvement, to the defendant for this jury?
Good morning, Ted. It's critically important to the state's case to ensure that they can connect those dots for the jury and show, particularly because, one, Shira has already pled guilty, and so you already have that scenario. So to the extent that they can tie this defendant to the co-conspirator in this case, that will essentially help to seal the deal for the jury and in the conviction that they're seeking. It's a tangled web that we've seen here with a lot of moving parts, but I've had some compelling testimony already. And as these pieces come together, I think the jury is going to, there's certainly a lot there that they can say that this is beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant was in fact connected and responsible in part for this killing.
Anton, as a prosecutor, do you like a tangled web?
Actually, I do, because juries, they love the drama that they normally see on TV. And so when you have a tangled web and you're able to unravel it and begin to put the missing pieces together for this puzzle, for this jury, and they can follow it along, I think they enjoy it. It keeps them awake, and it keeps them engaged in the prosecution or the litigation of this case. So I kind of enjoy them.
Overall, Michelle, we've heard the openings. We've gotten a few witnesses. What is your take in terms of the hurdles that the state's going to have in this case?
Well, I mean, obviously here there was no direct, there's no direct evidence of or witnesses to the actual crime. There's certainly the hurdle of the defendant casting the blame and trying to shift the blame to someone else, saying that he was not directly responsible. We also have the hurdle of there's already the co-conspirator, Shira, who's already pled guilty and is serving her time already. So they have other options, and all the defense has to do is show that there is a reasonable doubt that he was not, in fact, the person who either pulled the trigger or was associated with this crime. And so when you already have other persons that they can blame, whether it's the person who's already incarcerated saying, oh, I know who did it, Turner's involved. There's moving pieces there as well where they can say the dots aren't quite connecting and adding up. Therefore, there's a reasonable doubt.
Here's Memphis Police Detective Jesse Browning, who will be back on the stand as soon as they resume testimony, talking about a potential connection between defendant and ex-wife through text messages.
Ooh, Lord, I've never seen so many commercials in my life. Sorry about that.
I first want to tell the baddies that I saw.
Bernard was just 18 years old.
It's not even a story. What in the world?
He and 4 other teens kidnapped.
I guess they stopped playing what I was playing. I'm going to stop it there. That was the mother testifying. They jumped from story to story. Make sure I played everything. Make sure I played all of the content. Looks like it jumped off very fast, what she was saying. Hold on.
The tragedy.
See, that's what I hate about this. This screen just jumps off so fast. I don't know why it won't stay on.
There were a series of attacks also found between Shira Wright and Lorenzen Wright, beginning on all 7/17.
Sorry about that.
Lorenzen Wright was killed. Generally, I don't think you read them. They generally describe to me what Shira's texting rooms
Explicit, I guess, text messages telling him that she wants to sleep with him.
And really she want him, those text messages indicate where she wants him to come.
To Memphis.
To Memphis?
Yes.
For sexual reasons.
Correct.
To her?
Yes.
Are they able to find evidence of a text message from Shira Wright the night of his murder?
They are.
Are they able to find evidence of the text message from Shira Wright to Billy Turner the night of his murder?
Yes.
Are they able to find evidence of a text message from Shira Wright to Billy Turner about 25 minutes before that 911 call was made?
Yes.
And are they able to recover the substance of that message?
They are.
Who's the sender of the message?
The sender is going to be Shira Wright.
And who receives it?
Billy Turner.
And what does the message read?
I'm going to need my commission.
Speak out.
I'm going to need my commission. Ren want you to bring your cards in the AM before you fly out. You owe me, boy.
And Tom Bell, that connection is crucial. That right before the murder, these two are talking via text. That's difficult to get around if you're the defense. On the other hand, they're not saying, "Hey, let's go kill Lorenzen," and they could be friends in text. It doesn't mean he was the trigger man. Your thoughts on the effectiveness of this and what we should be listening for today during the cross-examination of this crucial witness?
So, yes, the text is absolutely crucial because what you have now is you have Shira Wright, who has already admitted her role in this homicide. Now she is communicating with the person that's on trial, basically said, okay, I want my commission and you owe me, boy. Now, when you put it in just a silo, then it may not mean much to the average person. Mm-hmm. But when you connect it with the other dots, when you put it as a piece of the whole entire puzzle, then it absolutely makes sense in context, because now you're saying, I want my commission for helping set up this murder that you executed for me. So it absolutely works for her. Now, when it comes to the defense attorney, they can say, well, there is nothing in those texts that directly says he was involved in this murder. In addition, the texts are coming from Shira Wright and not from Mr. Turner. So they can be able to make the argument that he had no role in this, and although she may have wanted him to help her, he did not, and there's no evidence linking him to that fact.
Michelle, this doesn't seem to me like a case that we're going to see the defendant on the stand. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you, Ted. It's not one of those cases where he needs to defend or put on an affirmative defense of self-defense or anything like that. I mean, in this particular circumstance, the evidence they have is circumstantial. There's no direct eyewitness to say that he is the one who pulled the trigger. There's already a co-defendant who's pled guilty. And so there's really enough there where the defense can create or concoct a storyline where there's reasonable doubt. So this is not a case where you would see the defendant. And also, him on the stand would just raise too many questions and probably open the door to avenues that I'm sure his defense counsel does not want opened.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out again. Testimony expected to resume about 2 hours from now.
All right, everybody. That's Court TV, my final source of information pertaining to this baffling trial. Thank you all so much for joining me. As the commentary states, Billy Ray Turner, an acquaintance of Cheryl Wright, standing trial for his life as a co-conspirator in the death of Lorenzen Wright, the ex-husband, NBA star of Cheryl Wright. She's already in prison for facilitating this crime. Her cousin, first cousin, has taken the witness stand as in this case against Billy Ray, and he has been the star witness. He's obviously gotten agreement with the state to give his testimony, and he's also incarcerated for killing his girlfriend, which is pivotal, I think, to this case as well. It shows that he has the intent to kill. So who are all involved? Cher's already pled guilty, so that means she's already admitted her guilt. Obviously, she's implicated this man, Mr. Billy, as the shooter. Did he shoot Lorenzen Wright? Did her cousin also participate in the killing? Because although they say his phone pinged in Mississippi, it doesn't mean that he had to have taken his phone with him. He could have left his phone anywhere. Could have left his phone at Cher's house and went along for the ride to execute Mr. Wright. So, who's going to tell the truth? That everybody was there. Wasn't just Shara. It was Shara, the cousin, and Mr. Billy. Because I believe the man was shot a lot of times. So you want me to believe the clip held 20-something rounds? What? What are we saying? Different guns? It is the cousin who testified where the gun could be found. One of the guns could be found. And as this testimony tells you, a commentary tells you here in Court TV, they have nothing linking Mr. Billy Ray to the crime scene. Not conversing back with her, I guess, saying anything to her. She's doing all the texting to his phone 24 minutes before gunshots are heard on a 911 call coming outside of Memphis, Tennessee. This issue of her talking about a commission. What commission is she speaking of? You owe me, boy. What does he owe you? What did Billy Ray owe Shara? What type of arrangement did they have that she felt like he owed her? What has she done for him to owe her to kill her ex-husband? That's a very pivotal question. Because it's one thing to just fall for somebody and they come to you begging and pleading and whining and subtly slick-ass talking, hey, I want you to kill this person for me. First of all, why would you even go along with it? And as you heard with them talking about allegedly throwing a party, you hear him going back and forth saying things like, it's going to be hard, I'm worried about the noise. What did he really mean? If you're a DJ, do you really care about the noise? You just want your money. So is he a DJ? Was he a DJ before being incarcerated? Can they bring a receipt to show that, hey, one time he was a DJ, to show that there was an actual conversation about him being a DJ? See, that's the thing about the defense. They don't have to prove anything. It's the state's job to prove he killed Lorenzen. It's not the burden on the defense and the defendant. And that's just the spoken word. But I believe possibly they all were there. And the fact that his mother, Lorenzen Wright's mother, believes that she's the one that pulled the trigger to the face. Very interesting. I did not know that he was shot in the face. But I do believe he was shot a lot of times. So you have to ask yourself, did a person go with more than one gun, or you had more than one shooter? Very sad. And no matter how he led his life, whether he was not a great husband, great father, she believed he cheated on her. The point is, you still divorced him, he divorced you, and both of you had moved on. So there was no reason to shoot him, kill him 2 years after the fact, a year after, however it was, when they separated and moved and went on their separate way. They were not legally married. And even if they were married to one another, it's still not a good reason, a valuable reason to go take a life. If you're unhappy with your partner, vice versa, then just bow out. Killing them is not the solution. And many people choose this route when things don't go their way with their partner, spouse, they take their life. But the thing is, you're forfeiting your life for a life. So everybody loses. And then you count the children, the family members, the friends, the community that are left to mourn the dead person. It's no-win situation. Because if you have to go down, how did you win? I believe she was still torn over him, still had feelings, still vengeful, angry at him. The things didn't work out in their marriage. She still wanted him to be that guy. I do believe after they separated and went their separate way, divorced, excuse me, that I think there was a rumor that they tried to get back together. I don't know if that's true or not, but let's just say it was. What happened in the mix of them trying to get back together? Did he just say, fuck this? I've already been down this road. It didn't work the first time. That's why we're divorced. And then she got mad again and just said, I'm going to put an end to all of this. Do away with him altogether. Because what I have to ask myself is, how would she have known about the life insurance policy? She may have known about it at the time when they were together, but she didn't have no idea that he was still on the policy unless she called the insurance company and asked the agent, hey, am I still on that policy that my husband has drawn up? And I guess by law, they can tell her that yes, she is, if they both went in and put their names on the policy at that time when they were married. That's the only thing that's puzzling to me. It's the insurance policy situation. How does she have knowledge that she was still on it, if indeed that was her motive for killing her ex-husband? But in the end, as you see it, how it turned out, children were left without a mother and a father. She writes a stupid-ass book about a fictional character that we all believe is about her life with Lorenzen. And he's dead. She's locked up. Kids have no mother and father. Cousin locked up for killing a girlfriend and possibly co-conspirator to this crime. And now your so-called friend, Deacon, handyman, is now on trial for murdering your ex-husband. So who won in this Game of Thrones? Nobody. Thank you for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $McAndrew129 Cash App. Thank you, T, for joining me. I'll be back a little bit later with a hot topic for the evening, Grown Folks Hour. I'll let it be a little bit late before I bring you the gritty grid. But I thank you for following the content. And stay tuned for the Grown Folks Hour. God bless all of you. You all stay safe. This is Everyday Shenanigans.